Every Premier League team had to show their hand. We got a little glimpse of how every team's season may or may not go this opening game week. But what were those glimpses? Let's find out! For example, did Xerxes' debut goal paper over some cracks for Man United? Was Arne Slot's first game in charge an out-and-out success? And has the title race been blown wide open already? I would love that, wouldn't you? So sit back, get comfy, but also be on the edge of your seat because this is going to be a whirlwind. So first up, this is Kai Havertz's touch map against Wolves. And there's one part of it that I find particularly interesting. And that revealed itself in how Arsenal came away with the 2-0 win. And that, of course, is the combination work with Saka. It was clear that Arsenal missed Saka in pre-season, and Arteta clearly knows that utilising Saka as much as possible will be important in their success. So the early signs of a Saka-Havertz partnership may be beginning to reveal itself. And if they keep it up, both of them may be about to put up some ridiculous numbers this season. Monchi recently came out in an interview, didn't come out in an interview, came out and had an interview, and he stated how the goal for them this season was to add physicality in the summer transfer window. And following Onana's debut goal after just 4 minutes from a corner, of course, this may suggest that they have taken up inspiration from another Premier League club in their attempt at another top 4 finish this season. Aston Villa scored 14 goals from set pieces last season, which was the 8th most. But Liverpool, Man City, and Arsenal, of course, all scored more than them. So adding physicality and focusing on adding goals from this area may be their plan to close the gap even more on those challenging sides. Bournemouth left it late to get their equaliser against Forest, but don't let that take away from the fact that they were actually great value for money in this game. What we noticed from Bournemouth is that they're going to have more than one way of scoring a goal this season. I thought the set-piece routine for their disallowed goal is just a great example of the imagination that this Bournemouth side have and how they're quite adaptive when it comes to the chance creation department. Their ability to find different ways of getting the ball into the box, I think, is also really fun and something to keep an eye out for. They could score a lot of goals this season, even without Dominic Solanke. Brentford's match against Palace highlighted one specific thing for me personally, and that was Brentford's biggest weapon this season. Their average positions actually show this in a sense. The high positions of Mbeumo and Sade show it particularly. It means that teams that allow their fullbacks or wingbacks to commit to the attack, they're going to get torn to pieces in transition. Brentford will take full advantage of it. So word of warning, do not overcommit your fullbacks against Brentford. You've been told. Brighton really consolidated what we thought about them heading into the new season, and that is that their wingers being utterly brilliant, but more importantly, direct, and them having lots of them. But that's not what we learned. What we actually learned is that the depth in this area is the real key for them, as they can wear teams down and continue to stand on opponents' necks because they can sub on even more attacking talent after around 60 minutes. I also really enjoyed João Pedro's role in how often he dropped deep to collect the ball. The space that he gets will see him score quite a few goals, I think, from outside the box. So a lot has been said about the size of the squad and what that means for Chelsea's tactics heading into the new season. But I think after seeing them, we learned something important in my opinion. And that is there are some square pegs in round holes, and will Maresca be brave enough to change it about? And Kunku should really be playing through the middle, in my opinion. Maybe Neto then comes in at the left wing. But more importantly, I think Enzo Fernandez should be playing in that deeper 8 role that Caicedo was deployed in during the game. You know, someone like Dewsbury Hall maybe comes in that attacking midfield spot. I mean, why did you buy him otherwise? Or even Cole Palmer, because you've got options on the right and left wing. There really is some figuring out to do at Chelsea, but once they get it right, it should work. So let's have a look at the average positions for Palace, because I don't mind it in terms of the chance creation and having those partnerships in different areas of the pitch. But there is one minor issue for me that needs addressing, and that's in midfield. Both Wharton and Hughes went out wide at times to contribute to possession, which not only left space in the middle for Brentford, but also left their centre-backs just that little bit exposed. I think once Doucouré is back, this problem addresses itself, but it is a minor concern right now. So in the first half, I actually thought Everton were good. They were quite good. They were getting very good balls into the box. You had Jack Harrison, who looked really sharp at times. I think so did Tim Iroegbunam, who made a total of 9 tackles, which is insane. But what I think we learned the most is that Everton need to iron out the silly mistakes that they made in the second half. Giving away cheap possession led to Brighton being able to punish them. And lastly, that right-back position really seriously needs addressing before the window shuts. So here's something a little bit different for you. This is Fulham's passing sonar. That's right. Against Manchester United, I think it shows something really positive for Fulham despite them losing the match. And this is the direction of where the Sonars are facing. So, for example, look at the double pivot. The pass direction very rarely goes backwards. And that's because they often try to play the ball forward with intent and give the technical players they have at their disposal as much time as possible with the ball. I think they're going to be really fun to watch. And importantly, the goals will come. So Ipswich, on the face of it, it doesn't look good for Ipswich, considering that Liverpool created 6 big chances whilst Ipswich didn't create any. But I don't think that does Ipswich justice, because in the first half, they did have their moments, with Jacob Greaves having a moment early on, and that was only denied by Alisson. But I think what we learned from Ipswich is that they need to be scoring these chances, because their attacking style will lead to opposition chances. And getting Amari Hutchinson on the ball is going to be vital, as he was absolutely excellent in that free role given to him by Kieran McKenna.
When it comes to Leicester City, look, Cooper has said that he needs attacking reinforcements and they're trying to get them over the line. And you saw with Vardy and the importance of him, that if they're going to get points this season, it's going to come from having a fortress at home, but also Vardy scoring goals. But if Vardy's not going to be able to be there every single time, or at least play every single minute, then you're going to have to get someone else in, and not just someone else who comes in, someone else who contributes as well.
I'm surprised that Liverpool aren't getting the credit that they deserve for game week 1, probably because of the comments from Arne Slot in his post-match talking about that first half. But there's one thing that I did spot that could be a huge problem for teams that face Liverpool, and could see Salah pick up the Player of the Year award at the same time. So Salah receives the ball here and immediately looks to spin in behind, less than a second after releasing the pass. He then makes his curved run on the outside of Leif Davis, but it's the ball from Trent that will be the biggest factor in all of this. That centre-back, full-back, splitting pass will be a massive source of goals for Liverpool this season, and Salah will benefit the most from it. So when it comes to Pep, I feel like we learn something different every year, or sort of biannually actually. But one thing I hadn't considered until a few hours after the game is that we may have seen Pep's first half of the season tactics. Pep often likes to use a specific team in the first half of the season before using a slightly different team after Christmas. And starting Savinho and Rico Lewis could be a likelihood to allow Foden and Walker to get up to speed, maybe have a little bit of a relax and get themselves set to go again and be utilised more so at the business end of the season. But the question is, will he do that with Rodri? Man United debuted their new tactics against Fulham, and you know what? I don't mind it at all. Firstly, I thought Alessandro Martinez on the ball was fantastic. And I'll tell you this now, there's going to be a big moment this season decided by one of his long balls over the top. But more importantly, I like the focus that they placed on using the wings and being direct in doing so. With emphasis like this on the attack, I think that bodes really well for Xerxes, who likes to drop off into central areas. He will definitely find a lot of space in doing this. And with his vision, it could result in a lot of goals for himself, as we saw in that game on Friday with those late runs into the box, but also for Rashford, Ahmad and Garnacho cutting in from the wings into half space areas. It's very hard to take an absolute lesson from this game. Of course, Shah was sent off fairly early. Newcastle only created 0.25 XG throughout the match, but importantly, they picked up the 3 points. And I think the easiest way to look at Newcastle is to remember that the best is yet to come. However, a right wing I think is definitely needed for some added spark and creativity. Tonali is back at the end of the month though, and I think that's really exciting for him. And a shout out for Joe Linton, who is just an underrated boy. We actually did a video on him. Go check it out. Forest had Anthony Elanga, Morgan Gibbs-White and Callum Hudson-Odoi all starting this match. They then had Jota Silva, Elliot Anderson and Taiwo Awoniyi on the bench. But what I wish I saw from them is a bit more balance in attack. Considering they've got all the tools to really target the wings, I feel the ball often came back inside or backwards when the ball was on the right wing. And with Elanga and Nico Williams on this side, I think it doesn't have to be the case with both solid in attack. But I'm glad that they went with a 4-2-3-1, as I think it suits their squad a lot. I really hope this doesn't become a theme for Southampton this season, but I really think that they were unlucky against Newcastle. As we touched on earlier, Newcastle created 0.25 XG, but what we didn't tell you was that Southampton created 1.77 expected goals of their own and 3 big chances but failed to score. They really should have got something from this match, especially against 10 men. This could be the early signs of them playing well, but coming away with not that much, similar to Luton last year. I think it feels a bit harsh, but it's true. But I want to be wrong because I believe in Armstrong and I believe in Martin.
So, I'm out and about. Don't worry about it. Tottenham. When it comes to Tottenham, it's got to be more than that, right? So the big thing here is let me know. Comments down below. What's the word I'm looking for here? Because it's slightly about being ruthless, but it's also about being switched on. It's almost about the attention span of what Postecoglou has put in this team, because it's all about the next thing. It's all about being positive and getting forward and attacking. You've got to be switched on down one end and composed in the sense of scoring goals and being ruthless that end, but also that goal, that marking from Romero was poor. So you've got to be switched down and have the awareness down the other end. Both boxes, that's where it's going to come down to, and the concentration of that team in terms of them getting and achieving what they want to and making that dominance count.
Tough result to take for the most part when you consider that West Ham created 4 big chances but only came away with 1 goal. The counterpoint to this is that they also conceded 4 big chances. So we're going to cover both. Firstly, Kudus has to start every single game. The way he rides challenges whilst also turning his man, it's so unique to him and he makes him so perfect in transition situations. But when it comes to defending, the main problem for me was struggling to defend the wide areas and allowing crosses to come in way too easily. It's going to be interesting to see how the addition of Wan-Bissaka addresses that. With Wolves, I think it was quite hard to judge Wolves considering that they played against Arsenal, but what I did see were some positive moments from them in how they made it difficult for Arsenal, limiting them to 1.24 expected goals, but ultimately this wasn't enough to stop defeat. I think without Neto anymore and with Cunha only on the bench, I think they were missing something that made them great last season. Ball-carrying players who can ride challenges and thrive in the turnover, which makes me feel like Cunha is going to be absolutely integral for Gary O'Neill's side.